Good afternoon. Welcome to our hybrid presentation. We are really excited to be here presenting. Just a few acknowledgements before we get underway. The materials for this presentation were borrowed with permission and developed collaboratively by the College and Career Readiness and Success Center and the Center on Great Teachers and Leaders at American Institutes for Research and by RTI International, with funding support by the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education and the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education at the U.S. Department of Education. The Employability Skills Framework was developed in 2012 with funding from the U.S. Department of Education to advance a unifying set of employability skills that span workforce development and adult learning. Framework development was guided by career and technical education, adult education, workforce development, and business stakeholders. The resources we will be sharing with you today were designed to support the implementation of the framework across education and training programs. So welcome to Skills to Hire, the Employability Skills Framework for Adult Learners. Another quick disclaimer, the content or opinions expressed in this presentation do not necessarily reflect or present the views, positions, or policies of the Maryland Department of Labor, nor does the mention of trade names, commercial products, or organizations imply an official endorsement by the Maryland Department of Labor. Hello, I'm Laura Ostrowski. I am the GED Administrator and Adult High School Program Supervisor with the Maryland Department of Labor. I've got my email and LinkedIn posted. Please reach out to me post-session, whether it's to discuss the session or just connect. I'm always welcome, and I always welcome content and contact to learn and hear from the various stakeholders across the great work we do. A little bit about me. I have been in adult education since 2012. I started as an adjunct instructor with one of our Maryland Labor grant funded programs in Baltimore County. I was a GED ABE instructor and as well as a national external diploma program, advisor assessor. These are two programs for high school diploma options for adults in Maryland. Somewhere in that 13-year period, I also spent about 5 years working in strategic workforce development at Johns Hopkins Health System in Baltimore, Maryland, and I am presently the GED administrator with the Maryland Department of Labor for the past about year and a half, couple years prior to. I was also at Maryland Labor working as an adult education program specialist. So I'm really happy to be here today to share some of the skills framework and just impart some general information that will be useful to your practice as adult educators.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ahu Moser. I work with Laura in a different capacity. I am one of the adult education program specialists at Maryland Department of Labor. And prior to this role that I do have, I was an ESL teacher. I worked in local nonprofit in Maryland. I also worked at a community college. I was an ESL teacher, then I became a program administrator, then I became an instructional coach. I think I did lots of the jobs in a Title II program. I guess you can relate to that. So, and then for the last 3 years, I have been with the Maryland Department of Labor. I just actually had my 3-year anniversary with Laura. So we started on the same day. So thank you so much for everyone in person or virtually being here with us. And we hope that it is a very fruitful presentation for you because we enjoy giving it. All right, Laura.
Great. All right, enough about us. We want to hear about you. Who's in the room with us? How can we make this direct and relevant to your practice? It helps us to know who's here joining us. So at your leisure, we'll leave this up for a minute or two. Please go ahead and scan our Poll Everywhere QR code so that we can get a glimpse of your role in the workforce development / adult education system. Hopefully, when you scan the code, it will prompt you to address the question, what is your role in workforce development and or adult education? Something to that effect. Welcome to the online crowd. Hello. Hello from beautiful Dallas, Texas. All right, everyone have a chance to scan. Let me do a quick switcheroo and see what our responses are so that we can learn. Is this correct? Okay, hopefully. Let me share. Let me make this a little larger. Okay, I'm seeing some results come in. Instructional coach, instructor, advocate, IET coordinator, transition specialist, teacher. Okay, a lot of real kind of frontline folks in adult ed, nonprofit CEO as well. Manager, community education and training, instructors, English learning instructor, state admin. Awesome. Career coaches, assistant director, workforce, career specialist. Great. Excellent. Like I said originally, the framework was designed to kind of bridge this connection. You know, one could argue that workforce development, adult education is workforce development. Certainly, from our perspective, it's an essential component. And so we want to ensure that those skills are being transitioned from, you know, our adult ed classrooms to workforce development, to the job, to career advancement, opportunities in a practical and fruitful manner. So we're hopeful that, you know, as you hear the presentation, as you learn and consume some of the practical hands-on applications we have, that this will be something that you can incorporate into your instruction and also impart upon your staff. So welcome to everyone who is joining. Really appreciate the participation in our poll. I'm going to switch now back to our presentation. Super.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So before we go over our agenda a little bit, just a very quick reminder. You're going to see post-its on the table for our in-person participants here. So we're going to have an activity very soon. So those post-its are for that. Pencils are kind of a gift from us to you from Maryland. Sorry, we couldn't bring lots of swag for you, but we thought, you know, we are teachers, we work in programs, we could always use an extra pen, right? So they're all for you. And employability skills framework. So we have some materials for you that you could take with you and then see if it could help you. But we do also have a Padlet and everything is uploaded there. So for you, just have a hard copy because we are also going to have some other activities here. We have space here in the front if you would like to come. We have, and yeah, we have a full room and we really appreciate the interest, right, Laura? So for the agenda, Laura and I came across employability skills framework a couple of years ago, and then we are doing our best especially in Maryland at workforce development conferences to really bring awareness about the importance of employability skills framework. We do lots of work, especially with the immigrants and refugees. So we become that awareness to like people who work in workforce or people who are business owners, how important this employability skills framework is. So we're going to review it today. Of course, we don't have the time to go into the skills framework deeper, and then also this is kind of what we are hoping today is that everybody here in person or who are joining us virtually, and then we are all in adult ed and we are all doing the good work and the hard work. So you all bring all those experiences and challenges with you to our presentation. So we also would like to hear from you. What is your practice? How are you doing this work, right? Maybe we have missed a couple of things. So we would love to hear the wonderful and the hard work that you all do. So kind of the reflection activity. And then what we would like to also share is that we are not here just to show you about the employability skills framework like it is its own. No, it is not actually on its own. So from the poll that I did see that we have some participants here who work in ISC and IET, right? So program coordinators or instructors. So we all know the importance of workplace literacy or workplace skills. We had the opportunity to do a crosswalk work. Everybody is familiar with ONET and the college and career standards. So we wanted to also show you all how they are also in this employability skills framework. And then also, I think there is this prioritization element. So how can we, as a program administrator, as an instructor, or as someone who works in workforce, how can we prioritize that? So no work is a small work, right? So as an instructor, maybe we often think that, what can I do? What kind of difference I can do? But we are at the heart of what we do. So then we would like to acknowledge that. We also would like to show the work that everybody does. I'm gonna try the clicker. So I think I did talk about the objectives. So I'm not gonna go over the objectives, but I will put it over here. So it is important even for us to understand the connection. Maybe sometimes we don't understand the connection, and then we know something, but we are not aware that that really falls under the employability skills framework. So we're putting it out there to see the connection. And we have lots of activities today. We were kind of thinking about having post-its, the big ones, and then after we solve the room, no, we're not doing that, but we have some activities. So we would like to show them to you. As we introduced ourselves at the beginning, yes, we are from Maryland. And in Maryland, adult ed falls under Department of Labor. So we work at Department of Labor. We are fortunate to be able to be in a division where we can see the relationship between the workforce and also adult literacy services. Our division, as you might guess, and if you work for Department of Labor, there is unemployment, connecting, job seekers with resources at one-stop centers or American Job Centers. But our unit is a small unit, but a mighty unit. So we do high school diploma options and ESL, GED, and then lots of things. And we have lots and lots of projects that we do work on. So, the opportunities for us are, endless. So we do lots of things. So I am going to hand it over to Laura, and she's gonna take all of us to employability skills.
Thanks, Ahu. We have chairs, by the way, so anyone who's trying to sit down, please feel free to filter into the various open spots if you would like. Want to make everyone comfortable. So employability skills, we start with a quote from author Leila Gifty Akita: "Human skill development in any nation is key for economic growth." And I'm also going to start with a brief story. during my time in strategic workforce development at the Johns Hopkins Health System, I had the opportunity to work on incumbent employee development programs, individuals who wanted to advance within the career of healthcare, but also stay within the health system at Johns Hopkins Health System. I had the opportunity to work with the various, medical department directors and things of that nature. And in speaking with the physical medicine and rehab director, trying to figure out, how we can cultivate a program that's going to really meet the needs of their department, their unit, their function within the hospital, while also really capitalizing on the skill sets of the individuals who are attempting to grow their careers in healthcare. And one of the key takeaways I really got from that exchange was, less of a focus on technical skill development and more so on attitudes and the personal and soft skills that, we sometimes hear the employability skills referred to, the presence of those. How do we bring those to the table? How do we evidence those? And I think the exact quote was, I can teach anyone how to operate, a physical medicine and rehab device. I can't always teach attitudes. And so those types of things just really stuck with me in terms of any field, really, in terms of any career cluster. And so I think now more than ever, in terms of the advancements, the accelerated and accelerating advancements in technology, durable skills, employability skills are going to become essential skills. Finding solutions, implementing those critical thinking approaches to various job opportunities and job functions, meeting the challenges and creating climates for innovation, those skills are going to catapult individuals to that next level. Just a kind of a data point here from Robinson, 2024, 84% of employees and managers value soft skills in the hiring process. I think if we were to just really focus in on that number and really think about what it means, it could be even higher. Businesses, another kind of data point that foster cultural empathy and emotional intelligence, see a 25% reduction in employee turnover. And all of these things really focus in on the ability to implement and work in the world of employability skills. So now more than ever, in a world of generative artificial intelligence, in terms of how that's impacting us as workers and our functionality as workers, employability skills become crucial. But let me just get a level set here. When you hear employability skills, when you hear that phrasing, what are some terms, considerations, contexts that come to mind? This is an open question for anyone in the room, for anyone online. Let's hear it. We're coming off of lunch. Just want to kind of get the ball rolling on this conversation. What do you think about when you hear the term employability skills? Yes.
So everybody can hear you.
When I hear the term employability skills, I think transferable skills. So it can go from one job to the next to the next.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Employability skills. What do we think about?
Oh, sure.
I'll openly admit I've been interpreting this wrong, which is why I'm here. I was thinking resume, cover letter, just basically the job interview itself, but not the skills that go with having the job.
Yeah, thank you. And we have two in the back.
The things that we older ones take for granted, like punctuality, doing the work when you're at work, not being on your phone, all of those and above.
Here.
I agree with you. I was going to say the same thing, showing up on time, but also just doing the business. You're hired for a job and you're really excited about it. And then once you get there, you're not so excited about it anymore. You got to keep that up, I think.
Thank you. And then I will hand it here.
I would just echo her over there and what you already said, attitude, being on time all the time, being dressed appropriately, having the right attitude at work, those social skills.
Yep.
Well, I may be cheating because in Pennsylvania, we already have transferable skills in workforce preparation skills, but you also have to consider those digital literacy skills, being employability skills, as well as the academic skills to go along with it. Ours is a wheel that has all three of them incorporated together.
I guess we have questions maybe from the, yeah.
Do we have comments from online?
And I just want to add some of the comments from the chat. So soft skills, hard and soft skills for employment, how to get a job, retain a job, be promotable or transferable. Essential skill set. Critical thinking skills as well.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go back to the comment in pink. Beth said about resume development, interview skill building. I argue that that's just like attitude, just like character. That is a vehicle to demonstrate to employers, to our social circles at work, in the workplace. It's a means of really projecting and exhibiting our employability skills. So great. Those are awesome additions.
And just one more from online, reinforcing mental agility in an evolving workplace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The ability to roll with the punches, I suppose, in some kind of vernacular. So yes, there is, again, there exists, again, through the Office of Career and Technical and Adult Education. I'm probably butchering Octay's acronym, but there is an existing framework. And what we want to try and do as a result of this presentation is really encapsulate that in a way that instructors, that supervisors can then share that out with with your learners, with your staff, just being able to encapsulate all that we feel and value in terms of employability skill building. So it's kind of a concise definition. Employability skills are the general skills and knowledge that are necessary for success in the labor market and employment levels, or at all employment levels and in all sectors. Necessary for success. That's what I'm kind of grasping from that definition. And that's success individually, that's success as an employer, success within social dynamics within the workplace. It's really speaking to a lot of levels of success. So again, we really want to keep this exciting and engaging here today. So we do have a brainstorming activity. It's a personal reflection of your own. We do have some Post-its. So at the kind of like near to the aisleway, you should see a Post-it block that you could maybe share with some of the other, just kind of peeling them off and share with the rest of the table there in your table row and your table cluster. If you're working at home, feel free to just jot down some notes in a some kind of a document or on a piece of scrap paper. Generate a list of your top 5, your top 5, not what you think, is important to, Walgreens Corporation, but what you, and I don't know, I'm just making it up, but what you think, what you value as employability skills. Top 5 most important employability skills. Two minutes? We'll take 2 minutes. Okay, so I'd like to hear out now, like, let's have a little discussion about what are these top 5, in your opinion? What are the top 5 most important employability skills? With the idea in mind that, again, durable skills, employability skills, we might use a variety of labels. Kind of think of those as a combination of how you project what you know along with your individual character, and how you project those skills or in a variety of means, whether it's through your creative thinking, your problem solving approach. I don't want to give too much away because these might be in your skill set, but and your character, your mindset. So anyway, not to get too far ahead, let's hear it. Anybody want to share out online and in the room?
I wrote down solution oriented.
Interesting.
So like if somebody has an issue or something like that, finding a way to fix it and not just complain about it or not just stare at it, sort of thing.
Interesting.
I'm gonna take it to the back.
Customer service.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
I put time management and team player.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Management and team player. Excellent.
I put communication, including things like how, the method, the promptness, they can very wide.
Communication, yeah, including
I'll
promptness
take
and
it to the
method.
front.
To piggyback off the lady here, flexibility. Things don't always go as such, so you should be willing to find a solution.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, we have 2 here.
The communication skill, the ability to communicate correctly, and also the ability to adapt to changes. Always in a
Mhm.
job, it's a changes, so you have to go with the flow and learning.
No doubt.
These are a few from the chat. So taking initiative, having empathy, being a lifelong learner, being able to use technology properly, and someone said customer service skills, but someone called this being personable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think by embodying these skills, and I think someone referenced experience. I'll use the word experience instead of age, I guess. Do we say we have a duty? Do we say that, maybe as future generations come along, that we can share some of these best practices, maybe in terms of efficiency and success rates and things of that nature? It's not to say that things can't change or, evolve over time, and that, anyone can learn, but at the same time, I feel like it's a just a pay it forward kind of a system as well. So all of the skills that were mentioned, just phenomenal. Now, what we're essentially doing here is building the framework, but I think it would be fun to kind of, our goal was to really get rolled up sleeves, hands in, dirt kind of action, so that when you do see, this isn't just going to be like, here's the framework and we're going to talk through it. I think building it in our own way, as a group collectively, when the big reveal does come around, we'll have more impact. So now our next step is to take those skills, that what you wrote down, what you shared online. If you're given these 3 domains, how would you place the skills that you listed? Effective relationships, workplace skills, and applied knowledge. So think about that for like a minute. How would you compartmentalize the skills that you listed? And we can discuss that, once you've had a chance to kind of wrap your mind around the domains.
Are you going to be doing that?
Kind of. Yeah, no, I want you to kind of use what you think it means and compartmentalize, because really the framework is just one example. I don't want anyone to think this is the way, employability skills framework or the highway kind of thing. I mean, this is just one example developed. I think I heard in the back that other states have similar frameworks or processes. I just, this is just one example. All right, do we have some responses in the chat? Let's start with the chat first. No, okay. All right, let's go one by one. So effective relationships, what did you put under that bucket? Of the skills that you had listed, that you had kind of jotted down as important skills, like what would fall under effective relationships, let's say?
We have one in the back.
So I would consider my team player under effective relationships.
Yep, okay.
I would also say interpersonal skills.
Yep. Kind of like prompts the idea of like connections to other humans, other individuals, other aspects of our social environment. Yes.
I put communication
Mhm.
under that, and I also put attitude
Okay,
under that as well.
great. Effective relationships. Anybody else have a thought on that?
And I put trustworthiness, and
Hmm.
I put that under effective relationship and workplace skills. They can trust.
Awesome. Yeah. Some of them you may feel a little bit, the lines blur a little bit or combine, themselves together. Okay. Any online commentary? What about workplace skills? What would you define as workplace skills?
I had a couple under here, such as software skills, like Microsoft Office or Google, shared docs, financial business literacy, and critical thinking.
Okay. Great.
Well, I think all of them can go under
Mm.
workplace skills.
That's
I
a thought
mean-
as well. Yep.
Am I missing anyone?
I think to multitask, adaptability, those would be workplace skills.
Multitask, yes. And multitask effectively, because we can spread ourselves very thin out there. I've learned that making mistakes with multitasking is not inconceivable.
Some things in the chat for workplace skills. Someone identified they felt that punctuality and flexibility fall underneath workplace. And someone else said that self-motivation or really any skill that's required to do the job should be a workplace skill.
Absolutely. All right. Applied knowledge. I don't want to go too much over time. So applied knowledge, what would we, just maybe a few responses there?
In the
Applied
chat, persistence and critical thinking for applied knowledge.
Persistence. I like that.
I think
Yep.
we have one here.
Persistence. I think about putting a puzzle together. Yes.
Taking what they already know and being able to use it in a different environment.
I love it. That's exactly, that's kind of where we're headed in a lot of ways. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So the suspense is really killing me. But drum roll, please. The employability skills framework, and we're going to dive into each one of these three domains a little bit more. If you wanted to know kind of its definition of these various areas, for effective relationships, we're talking about the skills that enable individuals to interact effectively with clients, coworkers, and supervisors. Okay, so again, that social element. Workplace skills, kind of broad, but the skills employees need to successfully perform work tasks. So I would take kind of tasks away there from the definition, and applied knowledge, the thoughtful integration of academic knowledge and technical skills put to practical use in the workplace. So kind of, if you're thinking about resume again, kind of that portrayal of your employability skills. What are you putting under your education? How are you putting yourself out there education wise, and kind of that bridge to experience? All right, so digging in a little deeper. So now that we've kind of brainstormed the framework in our own right and started to compartmentalize a little bit, what does effective relationships really mean? Let's dig in. So for and it's broken into subdomains, subcategories of its own right. For effective relationships, we're dealing with interpersonal skills and our own personal qualities. So, we start to think about, well, how is that going to impact overall our success in the workplace? Well, for interpersonal skills, we're looking at understanding teamwork and, your work with others, in addition to, how do you respond to that customer service aspect, customer needs, vendor needs, anyone with whom you interact. Individual contributors, how do you implement and exercise leadership and sort of that, overall, forward-thinking approach. How do you resolve conflict? I like what, I don't want to call you leopard print, but Courtney, all right. What you were saying about, sort of being that forward-thinking, proactive approach to solving problems. I like how you phrased it. What word did you use? Solution-oriented, yep. Sort of getting ahead of situations before they evolve. How do you negotiate to resolve any kind of conflict? I 100% agree with Courtney. It's very easy to, and sometimes we do need to vent. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a difference between venting and complaining, but sometimes it can go too far. So, just being able to kind of effectively resolve a situation and, sort of really also incorporating the differences, the diverse experiences that we all bring to the table. All of those factor into our interpersonal skills in building relationships. Personal qualities, I think we address this with attitude, things of that nature, integrity, professionalism, taking initiative. I did read recently where some of the Gen Z folks who are coming up, again, this is again very subjective, but who are coming up into the workplace, there's that question of like, all right, where's the initiative? Where's it coming from? And I think some of these things we could maybe model as more seasoned staff and employees, developing and displaying positive attitude, sense of self-worth, sort of not waiting for someone to acknowledge, one's value on the team, although that is important, don't get me wrong, but really kind of taking that upon oneself, taking ownership of value and demonstrating it, because sometimes, pats on the back can be few and far between. But we are worthy employees simply by the fact that we're producing and we're working hard toward our goals as a vision, as a collective, entity in our organizations. And again, taking responsibility for personal growth. Focusing now on workplace skills, because this is very kind of ambiguous. And difficult to pin down. So some of the things that are in the framework, sort of identified with workplace skills include technology use. I think we had mentioned, and again, in the back, you had mentioned about using Microsoft Word, using those types of products, technology use, systems thinking. So being able to apply a variety of algorithms to different problems and circumstances. Workplace skills does include communication skills, which I find interesting. I think we can certainly include that in the effective relationship sector, but again, it's not meant to be like cut and dried. The use of information and resource management. So just to kind of go again, drill down on each one of these, resource management, resources encompass a variety of aspects of our work, whether it's time, money, materials, personnel. Our ability to find information, as we do shift in terms of our different positions and opportunities in the workforce, we're going to need to know where to go for that information. No one's expecting anyone to be, a master of all knowledge, a one-stop shop. So what connections do we make? Again, how do we leverage our effective relationships to our workplace skills to really be able to maximize our approach in the workplace? Communication skills, we can think of this in a variety of ways, written, verbal, our ability to share information with others, and, in an effective and clear way. And then finally, technology use, our systems that are utilized, how we, improve those systems, and how we, ultimately monitor our own interactions within those systems and how we use technology. Finally, applied knowledge. What does this look like? Well, we've got two subdomains, applied academic skills and critical thinking skills. So we're kind of, really getting to the heart of that. Applied academic skills, of course, being those reading, writing, math strategies, scientific principles, things of that nature that we've gathered throughout time in our education, being able to kind of implement those in the workplace, but also critical thinking. How do we take what we maybe don't have immediately at our disposal, acquire it, and run with it? So all of these things, all of these areas, domains, subdomains, comprise the employability skills framework. Before we get too far along and I forget, I just want to point out that at the end of the table, there's a full-on breakdown, a printout from the framework. I just want everyone to be able to grab that at your leisure when the time comes. So, really an important way, because now we can start to shift. Now that we kind of have the knowledge of the framework, how do we then begin to implement this? Not just for ourselves, which is of course crucial, but how do we begin to share it with our peers, colleagues, learners, staff, etc. And let's, reflect upon the great father of adult education, one of them anyway, Paulo Freire. Education should work to transform the quality of each person's life, the environment, the community, the whole society. So the framework is not just, for one, it's for all. Ahu.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so thank you so much, Laura, for walking us through the framework a little bit. And also, I think we have had this great interaction about the skills. So it was very nice to hear the ideas, and I enjoyed hearing the ideas. So how we would like to start is that how does this work really connect with what you're doing, right? So let's be honest. We're not going to reinvent the wheel, right? We are not here to show you all something like a magic, right? No magic potion. So what we are, is you all have seen maybe so far is that these are the things that we are already doing. Maybe we are not really aware that we are doing. Maybe sometimes, when we think about, oh, maybe it is something complex that we don't know, but sometimes the basic things really help us see what we are doing when it comes to employability skills framework. So let me go to the next one. Hope I can do that. So what I would like to show here is that at the beginning, when I was talking about the agenda, I was trying to say that we are really not thinking about the employability skills framework on its own. There are a lot of connections in our field in adult ed, or if you are in a different field in adult ed, let's say workforce, sometimes, we always hear that, workforce people and adult ed people, sometimes we are a little bit disconnected, although both parties are doing great work, but we are sometimes unaware of what those parties are doing. I don't know if it is your experience as well. So we try to go and present at conferences in Maryland, and then I don't know, and they don't know we exist. And we don't know what they do. Although we really try, we hold those meetings and such, I think there is some kind of a failure sometimes, right? So we have some examples here to show you the connections that employability skills framework are really supported in our field by other initiatives. You might be familiar maybe with all of them, maybe a couple of them. The first one, this is not in any particular order of importance. This is just to show you a couple of them. The first one is the National Career Clusters Framework. So it is called maybe the Advanced CTE. So they have their own framework, but it is connected to what we are showing here today. So United States Department of Labor, so since we also work at Maryland Department of Labor, we have that strong connection. There are industry competency models, right? So which jobs are on demand, which jobs are rising. We are offering IET classes based on the demand in our local communities. So what is going on in our communities and nationwide itself? There is Center for Literacy, Education, and Employment. They do have an initiative called Equipped for the Future. Everything that you see here, we are going to have the resources for you in our Padlet that we will show at the end. And of course, you know, we all know we have amazing workforce friends and colleagues, and they are certified in National Career Readiness Certificate. So they do lots of work about supporting adult ed learners, whether they are ESL or AB or GED. So, and then they are certified in really determining the needs of these job seekers and how to help them advance in their careers or get jobs. And there is also National Work Readiness Council. They have a framework on their own. And then also, and then we have been talking about all these skills that Laura has showed us, and then what skills that we think that are employability skills framework that we have. So you all gave some ideas, and I think someone in the audience, I cannot remember who was it, but said that 21st century, right, skills. So these are the skills that we need in the 21st century, right? So if we are missing one of them, then maybe we are missing big time, right? So some of the ideas that we have here for you. So what happens in here is that we are aiming to show you some of the crosswalk, how some framework ideas or the goals from the employability skills framework really match one of those frameworks that I showed in the previous slide. And we would like to say that the work, of course, it is not our work, but we really invested a lot of time in reading and analyzing and showing it to our peers. So the work in here is that there is that very strong crosswalk, and then everything has been matched. The skills have been matched. The ideas have been matched to make sure that none of these skills are apart from each other. So they all work together, right? And we have the first one that we have is the Common Core state standards. Is everybody familiar with Common Core? Yes, we all are, right? How can we not? But yeah, so one of the skills in the employability skills framework, as you could see here, and then this also came up today, right, in the session that a couple of you said that critical thinking skills, right? When we talk about the critical thinking skills, so what does it mean? So how does someone know that I do have the critical thinking skills, right? How does my teacher know that I have accomplished this skill? Or when I go look for a job to meet with a counselor at a one-stop center, I don't know, let's say in Maryland. So how do I prove that I do have this skill? A couple of things that come to our mind is that if we are talking about the critical thinking skills, I think we think creatively, right? Do you think it fits in here, thinking creatively under the critical thinking skills? Yeah, maybe. And how about making some sound decisions? Like, you know, like we are teachers, we are educators, we are program administrators, we are really used to challenges that come and hit us, right? So we always have a plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, right? Our plans do not end. But how about for our students when we support them? How do we know that they can make sound decisions? Whether it is about work, whether it is about their education. So I think all these things fall under critical thinking skills. And about problem solving. Do you have students who really have difficulty in solving problems? Maybe solving problems is extremely easy for you or for some of your students, but you have this particular student and you think that, no, my student is not there yet, right? So we have those students that we aim to push up so that they could reach to that skill. And also planning and organizing, right? Some people, unfortunately, do not have those skills because maybe someone else has been doing it for a while for them. So these are all the things that we can think under critical thinking skills. Here we have some examples for you. So if you are talking about ELA and then in common core state standards. So for example, if you look at number one is basically about critical thinking skills. So what happens is that it matches the employability skills framework under the critical thinking skills. Or what about finding information or presenting the information, or this information doesn't seem right. So what is the reasoning behind it, right? So common core state standards have it under their reading. And then also, when it comes to math, any of you teaching math? Do we have any math teachers? Yeah, I see the hands up. And then also, how can we do the reasoning, right? How can we do the reasoning quantitatively? So it, at the end of the day, leads to the critical thinking. So, and how about the ONET? Do you use ONET, especially our friends here who is involved with ITs? ONET, what is ONET? Anybody would like to share what ONET might be?
See what they're interested in.
Yes. Okay, Laura is bringing the microphone. Would you like to take it to the back, Laura? So be careful.
It's an assessment that helps students see what they're interested in.
Thank you. Any other ideas for ONET? Okay, I think, like it really summarizes it. So you have students, they really do not know which career might be good fit for them. Maybe they have jobs in their countries and they move to United States, and then as their new country, maybe they are at odds and how they could transfer the education that they had back home here, right? So it gives them an idea about what are the possibilities for them to move on. So ONET has its own, framework, and we did talk about the communication skills, right? The communication skills, something like I heard when I was passing the microphone, listening actively, responding, maybe conveying information in writing. And then there is that observation, like who says what, right? Whose ideas is this? Or how do people react? And then their attitudes and how they answer, how do they respond? So ONET has this similar idea, like speaking, right? Talking to others, to convey information. That's the communication skill. Or how do people really give their full attention to people to listen, right? Sometimes we may be off track or something like that. How can we teach this to our students, to our learners? Maybe to ours, when we do maybe staff evaluations, maybe we teach our staff about that. So there are a couple of things about that. And then also the writing part of it. So the communicating effectively, maybe it comes to mind that it is all about hearing and listening and speaking, but it is also putting those ideas effectively into writing. So how do we teach our students that? So these are some of the ideas that we have, right? And Department of Labor has, not Maryland Department of Labor, but the big Department of Labor. They do have something called building blocks model. So there is this building blocks model that also is connected to employability skills framework. So one of the skills that we have in the employability skills framework is interpersonal skills. I heard it, and then all of you said it. How do people or how do our students work together collaboratively? Sometimes people don't like working with someone else, right? How do we teach the value of teamwork, right? So our students, when they get a job, they have to work with their teams. I mean, of course, it depends on the job, but how much time they are spending with their teams? What do they do to collaborate with the others? Do they always want to be under the bright spotlight, or do they always want to get the attention? But are they realizing that there is a teamwork behind it, right? Or how about the leadership? I'm not talking about when we exercise the leadership. Oh, I need to be the executive director of a nonprofit, but we all have our leadership roles, right? It starts from the classroom with the students and teachers. So they are the ideas that the big Department of Labor has, like meeting the team objectives or respecting the diversity. Diversity is a big thing. Some people are not used to diversity, right? And then some people think that it is something negative, but while it is a treasure. So it is important to help our students and staff to realize that. And we have all these resources for you in our Padlet. So now Laura is gonna take over and she is going to walk us through an activity. And we have papers for the activity on the tables. Laura.
Given our time, because I think we end at 3:10, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So the papers are fine. I mean, feel free to take that just for down the road, but I think it would be just important if we could just kind of think about it and reflect and share out in terms of the framework and in terms of your own practice, whether it's instructor, supervisor, leader position. How do you envision that you can practice or boost within your stakeholdership, systems thinking and or technology use? Let's start with systems thinking. What are some ways that you could implement this aspect of the framework in your own practice? Or how do you currently implement this within your own practice, within your own, sphere of influence? Anybody want to weigh in on that question? How about technology use? Thinking about, how we boost that aspect of the framework. How do you encourage that within, instructional environments, staff settings, meetings, things of that nature?
Send it here.
Looking back at the systems thinking one, I actually teach this framework to my students, and systems thinking always confuses me, but these skill attributes really help. And so like when they're working in groups, having them each have a task or like a role that they have within that group and sort of building it to where they're able to decide or like to make what the role should be, could be one way.
Absolutely. Leveraging strengths to arrive at an efficient solution. That's phenomenal. Yep. Anyone else?
Yeah. We have one.
I was thinking along the lines of organizational systems. So an organizational pathway from ESL to an IET program or something like that.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yep. Anybody else?
Anyone
Either
else?
systems or technology use?
Anything from the chat, Doug?
I just think it's phenomenal to be able to really implement the framework in this way. It's kind of that approach whereby we're communicating through the contextualized approach. Yeah. Go ahead.
Every year we see more young people enter to the workforce,
Yeah.
and they have totally a different mindset than the older people. So
Absolutely.
it's a little bit of the different challenge there. Or the older people have to adapt in their mentality, or they have to, so that thinking system is kind of little bit odd between people with a lot of experience with on the 20s that get bigger job, you know what I mean? So what do you think about that?
I think that's an awesome question. Because I think it's a give and a take. I don't think it's a, one-way street. I don't think anyone has like the complete answer and, do this, that, the other. I mean, that would be kind of anti-framework in a way. And I think I think we can learn. I think we can learn from those who are coming up in terms of, their career pathways. I think we can certainly impart knowledge. I think we would agree to that, but I think there's a lot to learn too. What are they seeing in in particular, when it comes to AI, AI at work. And I think that's a key piece where, when you think of Gen Z in terms of their exposure to technology, how can we really grasp that information and be able to run with it to best implement our practice? That's just my take, my personal take. So I see it as a give and a take, and I see it as a collaborative conversation. The one really key point I want to identify from this slide is that generative AI, this is not at all a session about that, but will certainly reduce the amount of time that individuals, professionals spend on certain skills. We think about it in terms of, different conversations with respect to the nature of work. And I think the reduction in time is going to be a key piece, and how we all implement that will be different, but it'll drive up the demand for other skills, though. It's not going to leave a void that's unfillable. And what those key skills include are the employability skills, the people skills, the specialized skills, who are going to be able to implement that. Yes.
I hear that businesses, they say that their employees are lacking these soft skills and these transferable skills. And so they're then looking at the K through 12 system. And I was in that system for a long time, and I taught character ed. And they said, this is great, this is wonderful. And so they're looking at K-12 and saying, please teach these soft skills. Yeah. Because then they're complaining that when they come out of K-12, they don't have it.
Right.
And so now, if our population did not get it in K-12, now they're entering the workforce, and the workforce is saying, but they don't have these skills. And so when we go to the employer, we say, okay, you're telling me that they don't have these skills, but they are not willing to put the money in to then train those employees, because ultimately it comes down to how much money, the return on the investment. So that's always
Definitely
the give and take.
Yeah.
They want the employees to have these skills, but they're not willing to send them to get trained, and they're pushing it off on K-12. And if they don't get it in K-12, there's not a lot of
Right.
in K-12 doing soft skills either.
It's true. It's true. It's a conundrum. And then there's just, how do we make the impact where we are? In terms of, are there mentorship or internship opportunities where we can try to impart some of the skills, and, hope that gets scaled in some way, shape, or form. That's a whole other conversation, and I guess we probably can't have it in 6 minutes, but that's a great point. How do we prioritize? I'll kind of go through this real quick. How do we prioritize employability skills? It's a good segue, though, in terms of integrating those into our daily practice. Well, there's a number of different, depending on your role, opportunities in terms of state prioritization, collaboration, partnerships along the way. We at the Maryland Department of Labor, among with, many other employers throughout the state, we'll partner with, various, youth, what we know as Youth Works in the state of Maryland, to offer those internships, to offer those mentorship opportunities, having that partnership capability. How can we do it in terms of case manager roles? Identifying those situations where not only can we look ahead and say, oh, well, let's do this, that, and the other, but learning from prior circumstances, learning from things that have already happened, being able to have those conversations with, clients and other stakeholders. How have those skills come into play? How can you recognize when they're coming into play in terms of an interview, in terms of a resume situation, and helping individuals to really feel comfortable in communicating with that, and, communicating those skills. Instructor roles, as Ahu mentioned extensively, aligning those skills with existing frameworks that are in operation within your classroom spaces, developing those contextualized activities, and using a variety of instructional planning tools to really be able to impart this information so that the learners can grow and be able to see where these instances are going to occur in the workplace. And finally, employers, you make a great point, ensuring that this is a priority, a tricky situation to be exact, but I think selling the idea of how this is going to impact the bottom line, and providing work-based learning opportunities wherever feasible. You know, really being able to really dive deep into what individuals who are, you know, younger coming up in the workplace, but also individuals who are within our adult ed spheres are bringing to the table and making those connections so that employers can invest in those skills. I don't think we have time for any more brainstorming, but what I want to end with is, and this slide deck is in our Padlet, which Ahu will mention very briefly in the last 3 minutes. You know, we're talking about an investment ultimately, an investment in a variety of skills and an investment in employability skills. And I think it's one of those things where, you know, we in the room realize and online realize the importance and impact, and how can we have those conversations in order to make sure that they're brought to fruition. Ahu, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, very, very quickly. This is the QR code to our resources, our Padlet. Laura also put our slide decks in the Who app. If you go to our session, you are going to see our slides there. So this is open to anyone. So please feel free to utilize it. And if you do have any issues, or let me go back, if you have any issues or questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. This is just to give you all the content, and this is also on the Padlet. We have placed the website for the employability skills framework, and then there are so many lesson plans, there are so many rubrics, metrics and all kinds of things there. You know, you could even hold a workshop with only one thing. You know, it could take hours and hours to do that. So there is lots of good stuff. And then here's some of the free resources for you. And again, all this information is in our Padlet. And then we thank you. So thanks for being part of the presentation. And this is our contact information. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our online participants. Thank you.